part of AlfGen, and I co-direct AlfGen, which is a workers' cooperative based in London, and we started it 3 years ago. I'm aware that there are not many students amongst you. Who is a student here? Yeah. Who is a young person? I think you can define it for yourself, but there's a European definition at the moment that is under 35 years old that we are using for our work. So we help young people, mostly under 35, even if we have much more older people in our crowd of followers, to set up workers' cooperatives as a solution to the precarious reality of employment today. So I thought I was going to talk to students, which is an interesting challenge. So you are going to have a window on what kind of talks and workshops that we run for students in universities across the country. So we set up 3 years ago, and I'm a bit disturbed about this order of things now, but it doesn't matter. So we usually start with asking students about what do they know about work and what precarity means to them. So in these learning settings or learning situations that we create, we are much more facilitators than teachers or lecturers, and the students will actually teach and learn between each other. So these are the kind of exercise that we do. So young people will try to understand, talk with each other about the reality of work today and what impact it has on things such as, human relationships, but also mental health issues. And it's just bringing back the conversation around what are the problems of work and how it impacts ourselves, and also realizing that we are not alone, which was something very important in our personal stories. And yes, as you may know, there is a huge issue of employment amongst young people today in the UK, but not only in the UK, in Europe. So we give them some facts. I'm going to give you those facts, as if you were in my class of young people today. So young people are nearly 3 times more likely to be unemployed than the rest of the population, and the largest gap in more than 20 years. There's a huge amount of wasted talents among the youth. Young people are in jobs that are disempowering. So we have talked about the issues, and young people have experienced work because lots of them work outside universities in order to fund their lives. Education is not free anymore, and lots of young people are really stretched into having to sustain a living as well as studying. So we go back to facts. So there are these personal stories and those personal issues, but actually they are facts, and it is a reality. It is a generational reality. It is not just an individual anxiety. So 27% of underemployed workers in the UK are aged 25 or under, compared with only 15% in the EU as a whole. Average annual income for the 20-24 years old is presently 18.49% below the national average. And just a quick comparison with the older age bracket, people aged 75, 79, the second worst of age group, presently on average 15.11 below the national average. So more than half of graduates in the UK are gringos, graduate in non-graduate occupations. Lots of young people have studied, have got the dreams and have got the passions and have got the skills and knowledge, or end up in jobs that are meaningless and disempowering. And yeah, this generation of millennials are at risk of becoming the first ever generation to record lower lifetime earnings than their predecessors. We remind room of young people that this is not just feelings, but this is a reality. And despite what the previous generation tells us, what is the problem with you? That's what my parents told me 5 years ago. What is wrong with you, Constance? We helped you. You've done it. You've studied. You're fine. This is not a problem with us, but it's the problem with the system today and a broader economy. So we bring back the question of what it means in a broader context, what is the problem is. So we do lots of visual work and visual campaigning, and one of our stickers, it's not used, the economy. I'm just going to, yeah, it's a shame. Yesterday was an event and people just grabbed this sticker, so there's a success. This one is very successful, so I don't, it's the last one. I would have loved to give loads of them to you today, but yeah. So here we go into our personal stories. And so my story, I can hear, well, I can feel that you can hear, I know that you can hear that I've got a French accent. I don't know anymore that I've got a French accent, but I do. And I know that you do hear it, but I can't. So I'm French. My passport said I'm French, but I've been living here and working here and making my life for 7 years now. I graduated 6 years ago, postgraduated in design and art direction, and I thought I was fine. I had done all the good things that I had to be doing, so I had done the internship, paid internship, in a quite well-known agency in Paris, and I had a master's degree, and I graduated with good grades, and I was in Manchester at the time, this interesting place for cooperatives, and I ended up working in workplaces such as university and also agencies, and I competed against 300 other young people or people for junior positions, and I realized that when I arrived in a workplace, my voice was not being taken in consideration. I was being the threatening young voice that was full of energy and idea, and there were loads of hierarchy and power distribution that meant that the relationship at the workplace were really not the ones that I had hoped for. I wanted collaboration, I wanted transparency, I wanted the dialogue to happen, I wanted us to make things happen, I wanted us to work together. So I thought, okay, this is not working in these old institutions, that's fine. Maybe I go freelance. I think this is probably the way we work together. So I went freelance, and although it was flexible and I was autonomous and I could collaborate with whoever I wanted to, I ended up working from home 7 days a week, not knowing my work rights, competing against my friends, thinking, are they my friends or are they my enemies? I don't understand anymore. All hiding from each other the commissions or the bits of projects they were going for. And I really suffered from anxiety at the time, and I had no idea what it meant to have panic attacks or anxiety, and my family didn't know, my friends didn't really know about it. My generation, my friends knew about it, and they said, yeah, I have experienced anxiety, and I realized that this is not sustainable. We can't carry on like this. This is just not viable. This is not me, this is my friends, the friends of my friends, the whole generation that is living like this. So thankfully I was curious enough to, I don't know, I read about the commons and cooperatives, and I was interested about those words because they were bringing back the values that felt were really missing in my working reality, and I ended up in a conference about cooperatives and the unions. I had no idea what it meant, like I didn't know what I was going to, and I met another young woman at that conference, through a moment of solidarity with all the old white men on the panel. Didn't let this woman talk, and we both just stood up and said, this woman wants to talk, and she's been trying to talk for 15 minutes. Anyway, we met, and she said, I think our generation is fucked. And I said, I want to do something about it. And we started AlfGen, that's how it started. We said, we want to support our generation to create better workplaces. And the cooperative model, so she had understood that in Barcelona and in other places in Europe, young people were taking over their lives in their hands. They were creating co-ops. So we explored co-ops, and we set up AlfGen as a workers' co-op that was going to help other young people, our generation, to create co-ops. So this is our mission statement. This is a student in Leeds at a careers fair. So we've achieved so much. I can't believe that feels a really long time ago. It's not that long ago, this photo. So yeah, AlfGen supports 18 to 35-year-olds to set up workers' cooperatives as a collaborative and empowering solution to fix our broken economy. Our aim is to reimagine the future of work by creating a more equal, democratic and sustainable workplace today. So what we did is knock on the door of Cooperatives UK, that was a federation of cooperatives in the UK, and said, I think we talked to Ed Mayo straight away, I can't remember how we did, but no sense of hierarchy whatsoever. We just knocked on the door and said, look, we want to create a series of workshops and go to university and talk to our generation about cooperatives. I think the way you're talking about it today doesn't make any sense to us, to anyone here. We don't understand the way you speak about them. The pioneers are very dusty and old. Like this is not relevant to us. So we got some funding by Cooperatives UK after the hub crashed and all of this, and we were on a mission to go and speak to our generation about cooperatives and inspire. It was really much about inspiring young people to do something else, to have an alternative narrative around work and employment, and to say that together it's not about being the lonely entrepreneur and the one successful out of millions entrepreneur, but it's about being together, that we will do something that is sustainable and that will fulfill our lives with meaning and helping the planet and the environment around us. So in 3 years, we partnered with 10 universities across the country and run like headless chicken everywhere to run workshops. It was very much a work about inspiration, to how we would visualize the issues of work and what cooperatives can bring to young people's life. And in this work, we ended up doing loads of advocacy work in the cooperative movement, because we were attending all the conferences and part of all the discussions in the cooperative movement, and realized that actually the cooperative movement needed to also be welcoming this young voice and these young people. So we had a double mask at the time, where we were talking to our generation, but also in the cooperative movement, and we co-created a network of young European cooperators network. So that is fully running at the moment. And after the Young European, the YCP, the Young Cooperators Prize that we run with Cooperatives UK, where we had 6 youth groups to set up co-ops, we formed a network of young cooperators in the UK, the first ever network of young cooperators in the UK. We realized that amongst young people, we could share the learning, we could actually learn from each other's experiences, and we had a non-hierarchical, not one master teacher expert telling us about the legal form to take for a cooperative, but actually learning from each other's mistakes and understanding of what those legal models could bring to our co-op ideas. Anyway, so this is what we've achieved so far, and this is the network of the UK network of young people. So, and this is what we've said no to. Why co-ops? Our co-ops are equally owned and controlled by us, not by bosses. We're all equal. This is notes that I took at the last young cooperators gathering. So they're very much of a voice, but they are very much what we are saying. We're all equal at our workplace. Together we run and earn our living. Together we own our workplaces. We said no bosses or external shareholder, not to exploitation of the people and the planet, but we said there will be care for each other, our communities and the environment that we live in. So we place cooperatives very much. Cooperatives for us are a form of social enterprise, and when we tell students about them, we say that the only difference for us is that it completes the full circle, where economic ownership is a very, very, very powerful tool. In workers' co-ops, you not only do something good for the world and the communities around you externally, but you also look at your internal structure, democratic decision-making, organizational structures, and this is very, very powerful. You can't do something good outside, but actually have a system inside it that is fully unfair and unjust. So we explain this difference. And yeah, work, we are going back to work, and work should allow us to generate a fair income, flourish, and have a positive social impact. So we talked for a long time about cooperatives without giving the International Cooperative Alliance definition. If you can notice now that I haven't still talked about the 7 principles, and nor the pioneers, which is very important in the way we speak about co-ops. We start with the why, and why cooperatives make such a difference today for our generation and the problems of today and the problems of our generation. It is about having a sense of agency and ownership over life, either your housing or your workplace, but the workplace has got such a big impact on your life that it is, for me, the key tool to change things as they are now. So here we are, we give some facts about cooperatives. I don't have enough facts. I think we need to increase this page. It looks a little bit desolate, I realized. So yeah, as I said, we place cooperatives in the social enterprise discourse or movement. And their business is owned and run by people like you, not driven by the whims of the stock market. Whether a cooperative benefits its workers, customers, or members of the community, they give their members an equal say over what the business does, as well as an equal share of the profits. And we will explain how economic participation is very important in today's inequalities, and the way that no matter how much you've got on your bank account, you still have your one member, you have one say, one vote. It is very, very, very important. Young people feel disillusioned in terms of what's going on in the political realm of today. They feel disengaged, and they feel that they are, they are being patronized over and over and not being heard. So how those cooperative structures, either housing or workplaces or consumer co-ops, would bring back the sense of participation and agency for a life that is meaningful. So the 7 principles, no, it is not even. Well, so you know all of this, I don't really want to bore you with them, but cooperatives are based on the values of self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity, and solidarity. Usually we explore what those words mean. So we do exercises where we imagine, okay, what does it mean not to have democracy, or not to have transparency? What is the opposite of this? And then we go back to the example of work and their experiences at the workplace, and when they have felt that actually, yeah, I was working in that bar and I had no say over the way I could lay out the table, or anyway. So we go back to their experiences and their stories about those words, and we give meaning and what it means in practice, democracy, this big word that almost doesn't mean anything anymore today. And then those shaky cooperative principles. So the 7, we go through them and we speak about them. And do you have any questions about them? I guess you don't. But it's, to me, a very, so there are beautiful principles, and there are those principles that make me get up every morning feeling that I'm doing something good for the world. But it's very much, after 3 years working in a workers' co-op and setting up this workers' co-op, helping more than 6 now, we've helped something like 15 young groups to set up co-ops. There is no cooperatives without cooperators, and the work that we do and the work that I realize that I'm doing more and more is about bringing back this attention to how we collaborate, how we work with each other, and the set of relationships that we create, and how we need to be attentive to how we talk with each other, how we listen to each other. And this is going back to the basics that we've never learned anywhere else, actually, how to be with each other in our families, in our workplaces, with our friends, in our relationship. It is about relationships. So yeah, this is it. This is our story. Is that I would love you to ask me questions and challenge me and disagree.
Can I just ask, have you still got funding to carry on? Are you earning income?
So in terms of AlfGen's backstage business, it is very interesting because we went to different models exploring what is actually our business model, because we are a campaign, we're an educational, almost a cooperative development body at the moment. We help lots of youth groups look at their organizational structure. And we realized that, and we did consultancy for big co-ops, so mid-counties and other big established co-ops where we were helping them look at the place of young people in the organization. And actually, we don't want to lose our primary passion, our primary mission, which is helping young people, inspire young people, and help youth groups to make the change right now by setting up co-ops. And doing this consultancy work was bringing money in the business, but at the moment we're not enough working force for it. So we put on hold the consultancy work, and we're claiming back the fact that we are an educational body, and there should be money in the cooperative movement for education, and education should be a generous common pot of money in the cooperative movement. It shouldn't be, oh, I'm paying, I will pay for you, and I love you, but what kind of consultancy can you do for us? What is the service that you do for us? No more of this, actually. You're paying for us to sustain the movement because we're inspiring, and we have proven that we've inspired thousands of young people. So we're kind of, this month we were having a big turn saying, no, actually, we claim back the fact that we are an educational body, and the cooperative movement needs to come together and fund this, yeah.
So that principle 5 there.
It is principle 5, and it is principle 6 as well, in a way. Yeah, and it's principle 7.
I wonder whether, have you got any relation to Radical Roots?
Yeah, I know Radical Roots, yeah. I've not been to the weekends.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you're aware and networking with them, that's great. And then I guess the next question is, I wonder whether we can get you to Nottingham to come and help us with our Green Festival sort of co-op that is bringing lots of people together, and I think would benefit from your energy and stuff.
It's truly inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to make a general point that you've encapsulated beautifully the internal benefits of cooperation. But what we as a movement consistently fail to do is impress upon local authority and government decision makers the importance of the cooperative externally to the economy. Because what you're looking at here is a model of ownership that includes a relationship between ownership and responsibility. The modern corporate model, that is the standard model for most of the ravages of the world today, separates ownership through shareholder models from responsibility. And that is what's destroying the planet. It also creates instabilities in economies, and local authority economic development practitioners should be understanding better, we should be informing them better about the stability that diversified local ownership brings to local economies. And we are shit at that.
We're part of the network of the Social and Solidarity Economy, which is a network that I really recognize lots of values and principles from, and we're quite active in this network as well as being part of the cooperative movement, obviously. But
Well, just relating to that, there's a kind of dearth of knowledge of how to relate. So, for instance, a few years ago, I don't think that was been filmed, local authorities were letting property go because they couldn't afford to maintain it. And people were trying to form groups. One example is in the Lake District. You imagine everybody lives in a nice white house and is dead friendly and articulate and everything, but they couldn't get them to meet together because nobody knew how to chair a meeting. Nobody knew how to establish a basis of trust. And so there's a massive hole. I mean, despite all this.
I mean, the point you make about the way in which people communicate with each other is really important. I think not just in all avenues of life, and how we've lost that notion of respect for other people as well as appreciation and kindness. Seems to be just all sorts of disappears.
I think we've been trapped in systems that hasn't allowed us to learn how to communicate with each other. It has. I really see individuals that are willing to work with each other, but are trapped in boxes that have been created a long time ago, and they can't get out of it. And their way of doing things are just inheriting from those hierarchies or those organizational structures. And it is I think it is a very urgent skills to develop. And I'm interested in Northampton University around this. What are you doing around, you know, what it means to be doing, what does it mean, non-violent communication techniques? It sounds very activistic, but it actually is actually the basics for creating society. And you know, I think those kind of tools and tips and methods are very, very at the heart of what we need today to work with each other. In activist circles, there are also great ideas and great groups, and this is missing, the collaboration and how we work with each other. In businesses, in the cooperative movement, it is missing. Yeah.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah.
Yes, just one last one then. Is you've established in this dialogue between the co-op and trade union movement, and you had some difficulty kind of making an intervention. I just wonder whether you retain that those networks, because I do some work in the trade union movement, and there are problems there in terms of getting people to take on responsibility, because people don't know how to relate, they don't know how to establish the rapport and the solidarity and whatever else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a big educational goal, and I hope you get your funding.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.